𝗬𝗵𝘁 and lazy morning guys, 𝗬𝗵𝘁 here from 𝗪𝗵𝗺, and today I would like to present you my Celestia bull case, and we'll show you how TIA can hit $50 in this cycle. So just a brief overview of what we're gonna cover in today's presentation. First of all, I would like to give you some insights into data availability or just data hungry applications, especially centralized limit order books, so-called CLOBs that run on Blobs, like these folks. They post data to Celestia, and how Celestia plays a major role in making these applications scale. Then further on, we will see that not really the data demand is the bottleneck, but the data supply. Up until now, everybody was making fun of Celestia. Hey, you're building out this data availability layer, but nobody really needs all of this data space or block space. But now, with the emergence of super fast and high throughput applications, we see that Celestia might be the bottleneck, and therefore they need to scale up their block space pretty soon in order to satisfy all this data availability demand, which leads us then into the revenue potential of Celestia and TIA as a token. And you will soon see why I think that pretty soon Celestia could make more than $1 billion in annual revenue. And then to conclude this presentations, we will take a look at the developing Celestia ecosystem and take a short deep dive into promising ecosystem applications that are currently under production or that just went live with Celestia underneath. Alright, let's directly jump in. This idea of putting together a presentation laying out my Celestia bull case came or was triggered by the announcement of 𝗬𝗪, the world's first real-time verifiable exchange, since they claim to be the most data-hungry application ever developed, and they are using Celestia as their data availability layer in order to make this application feasible at all. So they are using Celestia as a DA layer, and they're generating proofs on every single trade in real time. And all of this data is then stored reliably at scale at the Celestia. And this makes it verifiable for every single user. So everybody that is trading on 𝗬𝗪, which is a spot exchange, can in real time verify everything that's going on in this application, because they are all posting this data to Celestia, and they're using light clients on the phone to verify what's going on. And at the same time, they maintain the 15 millisecond execution speed. And this is basically only possible if you build your application with Celestia underneath, since you maintain full control of execution, the smart contract layer, but you outsource the data availability part, like the throughput. And therefore, 𝗬𝗪 achieves a mind-blowing consumption of 20 gigabytes of data every single day. All right, let's move on. So before we dive into the data, just one short clarification of what verifiability means and why it's so important. Everybody used to talk about decentralization, but if you as an end user cannot verify what's happening on the blockchain, decentralization doesn't really matter, because you can always be rocked. But the moment you can verify everything that's happening on this application, you're pretty safe, and all this data is posted to Celestia, this neutral data availability layer, which you can imagine like a huge canvas where all of the world's data is stored. And should there happen anything malicious, you can always come back to this neutral source of security and verify what happened and potentially roll back the state, so your funds are always secure as long as you can trustlessly verify them. And that's pretty much the value proposition that Celestia brings to the table. And Nick White, their CEO, just mentioned it here beautifully, that 𝗬𝗪, the verifiable exchange, is probably the highest DA consuming app ever tried. They're posting up to 20 gigabytes per trading pair, but more on that in a second. And at the same time, this is verifiable by every single user as they're running a light node on their phone. So you can verify while you trade what's happening on this exchange. And that's where massive scale meets extreme verifiability. And as Sasha mentioned, Web3 without end user verifiability is just sparkling Web3. If you cannot verify whatever somebody posts on Twitter, then it's not really web native, because these centralized platforms can always delete your post, and then nobody can double check if it actually happened. But if you verify everything on chain, then nothing can be deleted, or you can always go back to that later state and check if it actually happened. And Celestia truly enables that. And yeah, 𝗧𝗂 is just the biggest Celestia OG or super brains. If you want to stay up to date with the latest developments on Celestia and get the latest alpha, I highly recommend to give him a follow on Twitter. Alright, so now let's talk about the DA usage on Celestia. And as we said before, 𝗬xe claims to be the highest or the most data hungry application ever built on Celestia. And in the first few days on testnet, they consumed up to 24 GB of data. And just in comparison, the highest data devourer on Celestia that is currently live is 𝗬𝗓𝗄, which is a SVM built as a layer 2 on Celestia, and they are like posting a little less than 1 GB of data every single day to Celestia. And 𝗬xe, like, it's orders of magnitudes bigger, as they're posting like 24 times as much data as 𝗬𝗓𝗄 does, which is like the biggest data poster until today. And another super data hungry application is 𝗬𝗵𝘁, another CLOBs DEX that just went live a few weeks ago on Celestia. And they were also posting huge amounts of data to Celestia, like similar to 𝗬𝗓𝗄, but it's literally anything if you compare it to 𝗬xe. So I really thought, if there are more applications out there that are that data hungry, similar to 𝗬xe, then Celestia could really make good revenue here, and they finally have found product market fit, since until today everybody was playing, DA is just a commodity, nobody needs all of this block space. But now I guess we're finally seeing first signs of product market fit and how this entire trend can grow exponentially. Alright, now let's do some napkin math. I thought, if somebody is posting 20 GB of data to Celestia, how much does it actually cost to do so? So currently you pay $0.04 to post 1 megabyte of data to Celestia, and if you compare it to Ethereum, there you pay $2.5, which is 50 times cheaper than posting data to Ethereum. And now let's multiply that cost, $0.4 per megabyte, and multiply it with 200 gigabytes. So 1 megabyte is a little more than 1000 megabytes. So if we multiply 20,000 megabytes times the cost per megabyte, then we see over here that 𝗬xe would pay $900 in DA fees to Celestia in order to post all of their data there. And of course, weekly that would be around 6K, and monthly around 27K. And this is only for one single market. And as we've seen before, they require 20 gigabytes of data for only one market. So if they have one market, let's say Bitcoin, then they need that much data. But if they want to launch another pair, let's say ETH, Solana, Atom, whatever, then this demand would double, triple. And pretty soon, like that, it becomes considerable cost for them, but also a major source of revenue for Celestia. For instance, with three pairs, they would pay $2.7K a day, and with 5 pairs, 4.5K. And monthly, that would add up pretty quick. So I thought to myself, like, arguably, Celestia does not really need to raise DA fees anytime soon, because people were arguing, yeah, Celestia DA is way too cheap, they will never generate any meaningful revenue. But actually, if you look at these numbers, revenue could be there. So all Celestia needs is to scale up its DA capacity and onboard many more applications that are data throughput hungry, similar to 𝗬xe. Because these small numbers, they can add up pretty fast. And now let's dive into the Celestia scaling roadmap, or let's have a look at their data availability capacity. So thus far, the data availability capacity is 128 megabytes a day, and currently only 1630 megabytes are used every day. So here we see the upper line, this is the max capacity, and on the bottom here you see the DA that is used currently, which is only around 1.5% of their current capacity. So you might think, oh, easy, like there can hundreds of more applications can onboard to Celestia, but not until now, because 𝗬xe, this data hungry beast, it boasts with one market only around 20k megabytes. And if you compare it to this number, you can pretty fast see that one single market of 𝗬xe would fill up 16% of Celestia's DA capacity. And here I prepared how it would look like if 𝗬xe all of a sudden switched from testnet to mainnet. It would immediately fill up 16% of Celestia's DA capacity. So if they were to introduce 4 or 5 more markets, this bar over here would shoot over the max capacity and Celestia would run into major scaling issues. Therefore, yeah, Celestia has to scale if they want to host such data-heavy applications as 𝗬𝗍. So, I mean, the revenue potential is here, but for now they cannot host 20, 50, 100 apps similar to 𝗬𝗍, since there is simply not enough space or data space to be posted on Celestia. And even though these numbers here look pretty cool, they really have to scale up before they can cash in these numbers. So let's have a look at their scaling roadmap. So a few months ago they released their roadmap where they defined that 1 GB blocks every second, like they call it Mamo Blocks, that's their North Star. And currently we are at 1.33 megabytes per second, so almost 800x below their target. And this number you can calculate it because the current block size is 8 megabytes, but every block time on Celestia is 6 seconds. So if you divide 8 by 6, you come to this number. And as we've seen, 5 or 6 applications similar to the size of 𝗬𝗍 would fill up this entire block space. But of course, Celestia is prepared, and as Nick White mentioned it several times, they are looking ahead and trying to anticipate the surge of DA demand, and therefore, probably by September, they will release their next upgrade, which will 4x the DA capacity, and they will increase the block size from 8 megabytes to 32 megabytes, and the block time will still remain the same. And currently, on their Mamo 1 testnet, where 𝗬𝗍 is currently posting their data, they already achieved a block size of 128 megabytes, still keeping the block time the same. And there, that would be a 16x improvement from the current state. And the team also mentioned that publicly that by the end of this year, they want to go live on mainnet with the Mamo 1. All right, now let's switch over to some Mamo math, no more napkin math, but let's suppose and make the assumption that, I don't know, 2026, 2027, Celestia will finally hit their 1 gigabyte per second block target. And then I thought, like, how much data can be posted to Celestia on a single day to exhaust or to fill up this entire block space? And yeah, that would be basically 86 terabytes of data that could be posted to Celestia every single day. And if we now divide that by the number of data-hungry applications similar to 𝗬𝗍 that consume 20 gigabytes of data, then we see over here, in order to fill up all of this block capacity, Celestia could host up to 4,320 applications. Probably Celestia could even host more if they post less data, similar to eclipse, or a little bit less if there are new applications coming online that require even more data throughput. But generally, if Celestia was able to scale to this size, I mean, it could basically host the entire internet. Alright, but now what are the revenue implications if we say that more than 4,000 blockchains or sovereign layer 1s, layer 2s, app chains, however you want to call them, post their data to Celestia, this neutral data available, fully verifiable like substrate? Then yeah, let's look at the numbers here, which are mind-blowing. So if it costs $45 per gigabyte, again, we take the base fee and multiply it with the megabytes to get the cost per megabyte. If we then multiply the cost per megabyte to the max capacity, we see over here that Celestia could achieve a mind-blowing daily revenue of almost $4 million per day. And weekly that would add up to 27 million, and monthly to over 100 million. And if you extend it out to a year, you can see the 1 billion revenue potential that I outlined in the introduction becomes very, very much feasible. But 𝗬𝗼, you might ask, is this the top? I mean, if all the blocks are filled and Celestia reached their North Star of 1 gigabyte blocks, so there should be a cap on the revenue that Celestia is making. But I say no, there are two levers that Celestia can pull in order to further expand their revenue. And Mustafa, the co-founder of Celestia, he lined out the first option here. There is always the optionality for the Celestia team to increase the DA cost, which is currently super, super cheap, as he outlined over there. Because Celestia currently charges the absolute minimum to achieve spam resistance. and and it's not to make any revenue. So the current DA fee is just there to resist or to protect the chain from spam, and it's not here to generate revenue. And this is about 0.0001 per rollup transaction, which is dirt cheap. So there is probably room to increase DA fees by up to 100x. I mean, this post was made 5-6 months ago, so probably it's a little bit outdated because back then they didn't foresee the huge demand for data availability. But still, I think it's feasible that Celestia can later down the road increase their DA cost by 5 to 10x. So if they were currently earning 3 or 4 billions, just multiply that by 10. So they could potentially achieve a daily revenue of 40 million. I know that sounds totally insane right now, but yeah, let's see what the future holds. And by still 100xing the DA cost, DA will still be only 1% of the cost of a reasonable 1 cent end-to-end user transaction and would not be expensive at all. But then they have a second lever, which is to increase the DA capacity again. Even though we currently have this North Star of 1 gigabyte blocks, Celestia can always scale beyond that and just produce bigger blocks. Probably there is Moore's law and they can, I don't know, 50, 100, 200% increase the block scale every time. So within a couple of years, it might be totally reasonable that Celestia has a block size of 2, 3, 5 gigabyte, which adds another multiplier on their revenue potential. All right. But you might think, I mean, it's easy to scale the block space, but the demand has to come from somewhere. And as Raul here mentioned, the CEO of 𝗬xe, currently 𝗬xe is the largest blog poster or data consumer on Celestia. But if Celestia were to scale to 1 gigabyte blocks per second, we won't even come close to filling up all of this DA capacity. There's the potential for hundreds of high performance, high throughput applications to build and scale with Celestia while they're not competing with each other, because the beauty of Celestia, you have your own execution environment, you can set your own rules, you don't compete with neighboring applications that have an NFT mint going on. Everything you share is just this neutral, very fully verifiable layer where you post your data on. So everything that happens there, you have full customization and control over. And then once something happens, this data is getting posted to Celestia. And yeah, pretty much there are so many uncovered applications or Web 2 native applications that are simply not feasible at the current time because they require so much data. But with Celestia, as it scales, they can all come on-chain and benefit from this massive scale. And now you might ask, yeah, 𝗪𝗼, this all sounds cool, but where the hell are all these applications? I haven't seen one single of those. And therefore, we will now have a look at the Celestia ecosystem map. And over here, you see all the applications that have officially announced that they are building their own chain layer 2, whatever, and they're posting all of their data to Celestia. If you see here, all those with a red dot, they are currently not live, they're under development and not posting data to Celestia yet. And now I want to highlight some very promising projects that are building on Celestia. The first one is Abstract. I'm pretty sure that you all know the Pudgy Penguins, the NFT collection. They have also their own penguin tokens, and they're working on Abstract, which is their retail-friendly gaming chain, or just a place where you can hang out, have fun, and enjoy time with your friends. And they are currently on testnet, but they will soon go live and post data to Celestia. And I'm super curious how much gigabytes a day they will post to Celestia. Another very promising project is Converge. You might heard of ENA or Ethenia, the stablecoin project, and they're also working on a layer 2 customized for stablecoins and payments. And this project is rumored to go live either later this month and probably in September. So that's another contender for a super data hungry applications. And other applications are Rise, which is a rollup built on Celestia, specialized on high throughput, and CLOBs, where another application is EXO Market, a prediction market, or how they like to call it, a conviction market, which also takes advantage of the massive scale of Celestia. Another interesting project is Anime, a layer 2 built by the 𝗬𝗪cie team, which is another well-known Web3 brand. And not sure exactly what they're doing with their chain, but I suppose it's a gaming chain or entertainment chain, something similar to that. or Noble, which is a app chain for stablecoins, and they just announced their application layer, which will be built with Celestia underneath as well. Or here we have Pay, a application that enables private payments, or Bloom, a blockchain for real-world assets, and here we have Towns, which is like the Web3 for Discord or Telegram. And I'm pretty sure that there are many more projects that are not here on this map, that are still in stealth or haven't been officially announced to be using Celestia as their data availability layer. So you see the ecosystem already looks good, and there are so many more applications that are probably not on here. So yeah, that makes me kind of bullish Celestia. And I really think that Celestia is bringing something new to the table here, offering a neutral product that allows all of these applications to scale beyond their wildest dreams, while they can solely focus on the product experience and don't have to care about how to run your validators. They can all of that outsource to Celestia and just innovate on the best product possible. All right, let's move on to the concerns. So this all might sound super bullish, but what are my main concerns of what could go wrong? Of course, the first point is application profitability. All these DA heavy apps, I mean, they need to generate a lot of revenue if they want to post that much data to Celestia. As we've seen before in the case of VEX, they're posting between $900 to $4K every day to Celestia, depending on how much markets they want to launch. And that might be a pretty high bar for like new protocols. Of course, if applications like Hyperliquid, the most successful perf stacks out there, were to post all its data to Celestia, and they had to pay 5 to 10K, I mean, that wouldn't harm them in any kind of sense, since they're generating north of 4 million of daily revenue. So if they just give that tiny cut to Celestia, but therefore don't have to take care of their validators and all the infrastructure coming with it, then they would be absolutely fine with it. And then secondly, my concern, is there enough demand to fill up these gigabyte blocks for Celestia? Until lately, I've been concerned with DA demand, but more recently I changed my thinking, and I'm convinced that supply will be the bottleneck pretty soon. So I really hope that Celestia can scale up pretty fast its DA capacity. And then my second concern is that the DA cost is currently priced in TIA. So if you want to post data to Celestia, you have to pay them in TIA. But what if TIA all of a sudden bumps by 3x? Does that mean or imply that DA becomes 3x more expensive all of a sudden? I mean, that's just super bad UX, since these businesses building with Celestia underneath, I think they all need predictability and they want to be able to forecast their costs. So the long-term solution there, I think, might be that Blobs, which are like the units in which people post their data to Celestia, should be priced in USDC, so that these businesses have a more predictable DA costs. And that also opens up new revenue opportunities, as these folks or Celestia can then use USDC to either buy back TIA or potentially also pay it out to investors, or to reinvest these profits into its own ecosystem. I'm sure that the team has thought about it. And if you have any other concerns, please let me know it in the comments below. All right, let's move on to the final slide of this presentation. I wanted to leave you with this post of Nick White, again the COO of Celestia Labs, and just keep that in mind. Celestia was built to go bigger, to build bigger things that weren't previously possible. And as he said, Celestia exists to take crypto to the extremes. First point, extreme scale. With Celestia, you can achieve unprecedented levels of TPS, throughput or transaction per second. It's very much feasible that application built with Celestia underneath can scale to beyond 100K transactions per second. Second point, extreme control. Celestia gives you full control over the stack. You can decide which programming language to use. You can decide which smart contract framework, whether you want to build with the EVM, SVM, MoveVM, whatever. You can just put it on Celestia. And finally, the third point, Celestia is extremely verifiable. Everyone around the world can check what's happening on Celestia, and so it makes it extremely secure that no user gets rugged. And if you add up all these things together, scale, control, verifiability, I truly believe that Celestia is a strong contender to become a top 10 crypto asset. and furthermore become the default data layer of crypto, perhaps the entire internet. And just imagine if everybody posts their data to Celestia, because they're so neutral and all they do is to specialize to become this neutral layer of truth. It simultaneously can also become the security provider of the entire blockchain ecosystem, or at least securing all these applications built on top. And yeah, just think what that would do to Celestia. Probably their token might accrue some monetary premium as well. And yeah, that just makes me super excited, and I will definitely keep a very close eye on the development of this ecosystem. All right, thanks everybody that stuck around until now. I hope that I was able to outline my Celestia bull case and showcase you why I think that my price target of TIA hitting $50 is very much feasible within the next few years. This is like not a sprint, but a long time bet on the team, their execution, and just all these rollups that are being worked on right now. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving us a like and follow us at 𝗬𝗎𝗋 on Twitter and YouTube, or join our exclusive community at 𝗬𝗎+, which is a community of seasoned and very passionate DeFi users, where we discuss all things crypto, promising investment opportunities, protocols that are generating a lot of revenue, yield-bearing DeFi strategies, NFT plays, and much more. Alright, that's everything for today. I really hope that you got some value out of this. See you the next time. 𝗬𝗵𝘁 out.